Hi YouTube, Julian here, just doing a response video on behalf of another YouTuber, Rizzle, while he's taking a temporary hiatus from conversing with internet social justice warriors and Christian YouTube apologists. Okay, so I watched this video a few hours ago called Jennifer Fulwiler's Scientific Atheism to Christ, which sounds like a feeble attempt to conflate scientific knowledge and philosophy with dogmatic religious scripture. And I want to disclose my personal biases as a self-described atheist and philosopher in the interests of fair debate, and so I can't be accused of not making that clear in the past. I'd appreciate anyone who's interested. Please go and watch the video first, so you can have full context and response to go with this. All right, so the whole argument that Jennifer presents demonstrates the logical leaps and mental gymnastics that she goes through in every day to reconcile her reason and critical thinking with her newfound, completely fallacious religiosity. She doesn't really present any new information that wasn't really tried by famous apologists such as C.S. Lewis and G.K. Chesterton, who, like her, were introduced to the scientific method and critical thinking and Greek philosophy in school early on, but decided that they would try to use these methods and ways of thinking to validate Christianity instead of doing more research. They operate on very incorrect assumptions that when Christianity is subjected to reason, philosophy, and critical scrutiny, that they are all in agreement. This idea was created years ago by much more brilliant sophists than her. She even remarks that she was raised on reason and critical thought, and her father reading Carl Sagan Cosmos to her, and she kind of brushes that off, trying to make it look like it's wrong or something like that, and evil for him to have read to her or given her science as a child or something. Saying a rational worldview made sense to her on a fundamental level is key to understanding her motivations to keeping these methods of science and philosophy intact while she's reaching for ridiculously orthodox religious conclusions simultaneously. So she is basically showing people how to have their metaphysical cake and eat it too, which sounds great, but when you believe that a rational person is subjecting themselves to reason and then you find out that they're actually just making it up as they go along, you probably should follow someone else. So she says that when she looked down at her baby, that she suddenly realized that atheism is a lie, or I don't really know how to empirically evaluate this statement or anything else other than its sophistry or an appeal to emotion rather than evidence. And I don't really know. It's pretty funny though. I don't know why she would say that. So then she starts researching topics of spirituality, which at this point it becomes kind of annoying because it seems that she believes that better than any of the people that have studied religion or philosophy academically or through some religious studies, that she seems to think that those thousands of years that people have spent using all of the information at our disposal, that somehow she has found the answer to these things without spending years or time or any of these things. She somehow just figured it out, that it's there for everyone as if the pieces are already set up. So I thought that was a little bit arrogant on her side, and it's kind of surprising. So then you move on to my favorite topic, which is philosophy. And then she starts to name Thomas Aquinas as a brilliant Christian thinker in her words, who she was not aware of, and that somehow the atheism was preventing her from seeing the truth. So I can really understand this point of view, and I can understand why she would be so enticed by the beliefs of Thomas Aquinas and his teachings in general. So, Thomas Aquinas was famous for bringing Aristotle's writings and teachings to the full view of the church in a way that was not seen as contradictory to the power of the Catholic Church. So you see Aristotle develop something really important before this. He developed something called the syllogism, which is the foundation which is what we refer to as formal logic today. Basically the way we think and reason in premises and principles. You see Aristotle develop the syllogism, which is empirically based and scientifically based, and he was an important figure in intellectual history. Aquinas recognized his significance and the power he had, and he chose to adapt these and argue in favor of adapting these to be consistent with Christian teaching. So they're not in any way actually have anything to do with Christianity before he brought it to light and decided and told these people, these are really good arguments, we should use them. Right, so Thomas Aquinas was influenced by the great philosophers' readings involving critical thinking, science, but for whatever reason, she falls prey to the same historical miscalculation that the Christian scholastic thinkers did in the past. So enlightenment or spirituality can, as Sam Harris and Aldous Huxley have written about multiple times, do refer to in their writings like as ways you can involve in yourself in enlightenment and spirituality. You can do these things. You can be enlightened through meditation, mindfulness, self-awareness, personal reflection, peaceful parenting, and charity. You can engage in all these things without having to believe in doctrine or without having to study religious texts excessively. So what Jennifer Fulwiler offers is not freedom from the mind-forged manacles of ignorance, but rather old propaganda-filled narratives to replace a system of rationality and reason which we have labored so hard to create. So instead of what she's kind of showing herself as is kind of a Nietzschean figure who's destroying the old world and destroying the old values, but in reality, she's just trying to replace one narrative with another. So it's really not like she's really bringing anything new whatsoever to this at all. She's not bringing any good evidence anyways. From my perspective, it seems like Jennifer did what most children do when they rebel against their parents. It just took her a bit longer than most children to get to her rebellious stage. It's an old story of her parents who are atheists, so just like the children of religious families will often seek refuge in other subcultures, the children of atheists would do the same thing if they aren't exposed to a whole bunch of other things, as well as the reasons why we no longer believe them. So without the bigger historical context of Christianity, if you were never really exposed to the reasons why, or the whole history of it, you may just be like, okay, well, this sounds logical, this sounds like a good solution. But, the same as communism, if you're not given the full text and you're shown the people that adhere to these teachings and what they've actually done when they're in power, just like the Christians to some degree in some places, that you can see how these ideologies can be very powerful influences on people, not necessarily always for a good reason. So maybe it would be more beneficial for Jennifer to continue seeking out knowledge and wisdom and self-improvement instead of making truth claims without the forethought that only convinces those who are seeking not evidence of truth, but only wish to vindicate their own personal preferences and beliefs in the society in which they happen to be in. So I think in all, it really doesn't convince anyone except for people who are, it would be convincing to people who have a basis of understanding of logic and principles and science and ethics, but who also wish to reconcile those beliefs without actually applying ethics and reason, but saying that you are and having the appearance of that reconciliation taking place. Anyways, appreciate it. Thank you very much, and have a good night.